Hello friends, this is Shashi Agarwal Economics and Law classes. I Dr. Shashi Agarwal welcome you all. Today our subject is business law. Under business law we are going to do the chapter 5 of business law, that is the free consent. Under the free consent we are going to cover the free consent in 2 or 3 parts. Today we are going to do coercion and undue influence. Its written note will be available at my blog. Even the lecture will also be available in Hindi at my second channel Shashi Agarwal. First of all, we will understand what is the meaning of consent. Consent means when we agree to or we give acceptance, and parties to the contract must give their consent free, without any force, without any pressure. And when we say consent, it means they are understanding the terms and conditions of the contract in the same meaning, they are interpreting the same meaning, they are understanding in the same sense. Like A wants to sell his red Maruti car, B also understand he is selling his red Maruti car. Then we say they are understanding the terms and conditions in the same sense. And one of the essential condition is the consent should be free, without any force. The party should give acceptance without, it should be without any pressure, without any force. Two or more persons are said to consent when they agree upon the same thing in the same sense. Like A wants to sell his red Maruti car, but B is interpreting it is the red Esteem. Then they are not understanding in the same sense. Then the consent is missing. No effective contract can come into existence unless the parties they have consensus ad idem. It means they are understanding the essential terms of the contract in the same meaning. They are interpreting it the same meaning. Consent means meeting of the minds of the parties in respect of the subject matter. The contract which is covering some subject, the understanding, the interpretation should be same in the both the minds. Then we say consensus ad idem. An illiterate woman, she signed a gift deed. She was thinking that it is I'm signing the power of attorney, but it was a gift deed. It was held there is no consent at all, because the interpretation is different. They are understanding the terms and conditions not in the same sense. So the agreement is void from the very beginning. A is having 2 cars. One is Santro and the second is Esteem. A wanted to sell his Esteem car. A offered to B that I want to sell my car. B thought it is Santro. So there is no consent because they are not understanding the subject in the same sense. Consent, absence of consent may arise due to the error to the nature of the contract. Sometimes we are mistaken to the identity of the party. Sometimes there is an error in the subject matter of the contract. Free consent of all the parties to the contract is one of the essential elements of a valid contract. The parties to the contract should have the identity of mind. Along with the identity of mind, they should give the free consent. And the free consent means which is not caused by coercion, which is dealt under section 15, which is not caused by undue influence, which is dealt under section 16, which is not caused by fraud, which is not caused by misrepresentation, which is not caused by mistake. In this video we are going to focus on 2 topics, that is the coercion and the undue influence. Threat or force used by one party against another, compelling him to enter into agreement. Like A party gives threat to B that I will shoot your son if you do not transfer your property to me. So here threat is used, force is used, so that the other party should enter into the contract. Section 15 of the Indian Penal Code says, when we are committing or threatening some act which is prohibited by Indian Penal Code, or we are giving the threat, we are going to detain or threatening to detain, we unlawfully detain some property to the prejudice of any person so that he should enter the contract with us. An act, coercion is defined under section 15 of the Contract Act. An act will amount to be coercion. There should be clear utterance of threat. I will kidnap your son. I will shoot you. I will shoot your wife if you don't transfer your property to me. There must be clear utterance of the threat. Threat should be given in clear words. Threat should be to commit an act which is prohibited by Indian Penal Code. Like we are kidnapping, we are detaining someone, we are detaining someone's property, documents. That is an act which is prohibited by the Indian Penal Code. And here the objective is to make, we are giving the threat so that the other party should enter into contract. So consent is obtained by the coercion. Like in the case of Chikham Amiraju versus Chikham Seshama, by threat of suicide, Hindu husband induced his wife and son to execute a release of property in favor of his brother. Wife and son, they were claiming that is their property, but the man, he pressurized, I will commit suicide. You have to transfer this property to my brother. Here the party, wife and son, whose consent is not free, they could go to the court and declare the contract void. So the contract which is done under coercion, that is avoidable at the whose consent is not free. Free means that the consent is not given by the free will. The act constitute coercion need not necessarily proceed from a party to the contract. It may even proceed from stranger. It may be against anybody, not necessarily contracting party. Like A said, I will shoot your son if you do not transfer your property to me. Here the harm is to his son, and it could be to any stranger also. Like A said, if you do not let your house to me, I will shoot your friend. A says to B, I will shoot your friend C if you do not let me your house. What are the essential elements? Committing any act which is prohibited by law, threatening to commit any act which is prohibited by Indian Penal Code, unlawful detaining of any property. An accountant, he says, I will not give you the books of accounts until you release me from all the liability. So this is also a case of unlawful detaining of any property, and it amounts to coercion. Threatening to detain any property, like a railway said, we will not deliver you the goods until you pay us the illegal charges. So here the threat is given to detain any property, that is also amount to coercion. It need not proceed from the party to the contract. It need not necessarily directed against the other contracting party. Coercion could be in this way, like committing suicide. A railway company refused to deliver certain goods to the consignee except upon the payment of illegal charges for the carriage. The consignee pay the sum charged in order to obtain the goods. He is entitled to recover so much of the charges as well illegally excessive. It is immaterial whether the Indian Penal Code is or not at force at the time when the crime is committed, when the coercion is used. It is immaterial whether the Indian Penal Code is or not at force at the time when the coercion is employed. A was traveling on the ship. He was on the high sea. He threatened B, I will murder you if you do not write a pronote in favor of A. It amount to be coercion. Even though the Indian Penal Code was not applicable on the high seas. So what are the effects of the coercion? It is voidable. Voidable means the party whose consent is not free. If it wants to set aside the contract, it could go to the court and declare it void. But if the aggrieved party has taken any benefit, then it has to return the benefit. And the burden of proof lies on the party who wants to set aside the contract that there is a coercion. So what are the remedies? Restitution, restoring the injured party to the state of position before the contract was entered into. If any benefit is taken, that has to be restored back. And the cancellation, the party whose consent is not free, that could cancel the contract. Duress. Coercion in India is known as a duress in England. If the consent of the parties is obtained by a fear caused by threat or by giving any bodily harm, then it is a case of duress. Now we are going to understand what are the difference between the coercion and duress. Coercion could be directed against third party. I will shoot your friend if you don't let me your house. But duress must be aimed at the life of the contracting party, his wife and children. It may be against the person or property, but duress must be against the life or liberty of the person. Coercion may proceed from any other party. It may proceed from the party to the contract or his agent. It is not necessary that it may be giving only threat, but duress, it means immediate violence. Now we are coming to the second topic, that is the undue influence. Like coercion is a threat, undue influence, it is the domination of the weak mind by the strong mind. Undue influence is moral coercion as opposed to physical coercion. It is the domination of the weak mind by a strong mind to an extent which causes the behavior of the weaker person to assume an unnatural character. Here, a strong mind is controlling the weak mind. Sometimes the parties to an agreement are so related, they are in fiduciary relation, the one party is in position to dominate the will of other. Section 16 of the Contract Act provides that a contract is said to be induced by undue influence, where the relation which is existing between the party are of such a nature that the one party is in position to dominate the will of the other, like father and son. So father is in a position to dominate the will of son and uses this position to obtain unfair advantages over the other. Then we say it is undue influence. Undue influence, what are the presumptions? Where he holds a real or apparent authority, like a relationship between the master and servant. A police officer purchased a property worth rupees 2 lakh for rupees 20,000 from the accused in his custody. So definitely the police officer is having control on the accused. Later I wanted to avoid the contract. Where he stands in fiduciary relationship. Fiduciary means a relation of trust, mutual trust to the other. For example, father, son, advocate and client. Moody versus Cox case, a solicitor means advocate sold certain property to one of his client. The client alleged that the property was overvalued and his consent was caused by undue influence. So what are the examples of the fiduciary relation? Parent and child, doctor and patient, spiritual advisor and disciple, guardian and ward, teacher and student, lawyer and client, principal and agent, publisher and the author, trustee and the beneficiary. Fiancé, a man and his near relative, aunt and nephew. The undue influence is not presumed in the following relation: husband and wife, not in the case of Pardhanshi, that wife is not Pardhanshi, landlord and tenant, creditor and debtor, money lender and the borrower. Here the undue influence is not presumed. So what is undue influence? Where he makes a contract with a person whose mental capacity is temporarily or permanently affected by reason of age, illness or mental or bodily distress, like in the case of Rani, Annapurni and Swaminathan, a poor Hindu widow who was in dire need. He was needing money and that money was very badly needed. So she went to the moneylender. Moneylender said that you have to pay 100% rate of the interest. So it was a case of undue influence because the lady was in mental stress and the person forced him to pay a 100% rate of interest. The court reduced the rate of interest. So what are the effects of the undue influence? They are voidable at the option of the party whose consent is caused by undue influence. If the party wants to avoid, it could be declared void at the option of the party whose consent is caused by undue influence. Such a contract may be set aside, it may be cancelled, either absolutely or subject to restitute the benefit upon such condition as the court may deem fit. A money was advanced to Y and he was induced to execute a bond for ₹100 with the interest at a 6% per month. The court may set aside the bond and order B to repay ₹100 with such interest as may deem fit. The burden of proof that there is no undue influence in an agreement will be on the person who is in position to dominate the will of the other. Father has to prove that he had not unduly influenced his son in case of any given agreement. Undue influence is also presumed in case of unreasonable transactions and pardanashi women, but it is not presumed in the case of relationship of husband and wife where the wife is not pardanashi, creditor and debtor, landlord and tenant. It has to be proved. Duty of the weaker party has to be proved in these cases. So when undue influence is suspected, there is inadequacy of the consideration, like the police officer has sold has purchased the property worth ₹2 lakhs for 20,000. Inequality between the parties, fiduciary relation existing between the parties, pardanashi women, and unconscionable bargains where the transaction is unreasonable. And Kirparam versus Samiuddin Ebkhana, a youth of 18 years of age, spent thrift and drunkard, borrowed ₹900 on a bond bearing compound interest at 2% per month, held the rate of interest charged was unreasonable. Pardanashi woman, she is that woman who lives in seclusion. Seclusion means he is not having he is not having communication with the outer world. She is that woman who lives in seclusion, having communication except from the parda. She wears parda. She has not much interaction with the outside world. And this special protection on the ground of the ignorance of the worldly knowledge. When the contract is entered, such kinds of women, they are assumed to be undue influence. She is not bound by the contract unless the other party show that she is she has entered with her free consent and is of considerable age, has also understood the deed. So where are the unconscionable bargains? What are the unreasonable transactions? Dominate the other party and the transaction is done in apparently unfair manner. And it is presumed that the consent must have been caused by undue influence. Like Kirparam and Samiuddin Ebkhana, a youth of 18 years of age, spent thrift and drunkard, borrowed ₹900 on a bond, bearing compound interest at 2% per month, held the rate of interest charge was unreasonable. So what is the difference between the coercion and the undue influence? Coercion may be use of physical force. Undue influence, moral pressure is there. So it is the dominance of the weak mind by the strong mind. May proceed from anyone. It must be having certain relation between the parties. And it is voidable. Court may set aside or enforce in a modified form. Coercion is prohibited and punishable under Criminal Act, but undue influence, there is no Criminal Act.